Brodes Media.
They really went into Queens and did the worst fucking possible thing in the world. They did that. They did that. Ay, ay, ay. So the first two games, I would say rage was probably the perfect way to describe my feelings. A lot of anger, a lot of frustration, and that's all still there, and I'm sure I'll find a pocket at some point in this show to absolutely lose my cool. But to start things off, I'm worn down more than anything else. I'm emotionally defeated. I'm sad. I'm upset. In two of these games, they weren't even competitive. And I'll give all the credit to the world, okay, to the kid on the bump on the other side today. Sometimes the Phillies hide behind that way too often. This time, I acknowledge that was a disgusting effort. But here's the kicker. That's what you are going to see in the playoffs. Great pitching. If you just put your hands up and shrug, look left and right and go, I don't know, just not our day. He's too good. Then we're not going anywhere. You have to beat great pitching. That's what happens if you want to win a championship. Sorry. You get paid a lot of money to counter that. Guys like Kyle, who have carried you for a long period of time, and that's what became a staple of your team's offense. He couldn't have disappeared more. Like, I wasn't even aware that he showed up to Queens. I didn't know if he was at the ballpark. You're not going to win when that's the case. I heard some crazy stat when I was driving into the studio one of these nights where Scott Fransky said on the broadcast that, and it's something along these lines, when Kyle Schwarber hits a home run, they win at a pace that is unbelievable and unfathomable. When he doesn't home run, they're on pace to be the Pittsburgh Pirates. Now, that's a lot of pressure for one man to carry, and that's unfair. And I'm willing to give him wiggle room and some down spots because you can't be red hot forever. Not this series. This was the series. It should have been. This shouldn't be the same as a series against Seattle. This shouldn't be the same as a series against Washington. This is the New York fucking Mets when you have a 7-game lead. If you get swept, it crumbles down to 4 with another long series in your own ballpark in a couple of weeks. And yeah, they're probably masking their fears by claiming at least we get to play in front of 40,000+ on our side. But sorry, you got a lot to prove to me before I buy into any of your nonsense. And quite frankly, I'm not going to buy into any of the nonsense moving forward. But you understand that for Kyle, for Trey, for Bryce, and please, there's Trey's single in the 9th. There's Trey's grindy little single. Woohoo. Oh, man. They all failed. They all no-showed. This isn't the series where you all no-show. There's got to be something broken and fractured if that's the case. That's not just the natural ebbs and flows. Not for this series. This gives you runaway space or gives the other team life to actually be back in the dogfight. And you know what this weekend reminded me of? Not that I'm condoning this by any means. But we all lived through the high school experience. Was there ever a place in your neighborhood where people would meet up after school or on the weekend for a fight? 4 o'clock Saturday in the woods behind the elementary school. Then there'd be 30, 40 people with their flip phone camera recording it. Well, there's always this guy who gets popped where you can hear their cheekbone and jaw breaking with the impact and the collision of cheek to fist. And everyone goes, ooh! Some probably run because they're afraid. Some call the hospital. Call 911. Someone rush here soon. This is bad. That was the Phillies. And even someone who was so skeptical, and I've destroyed this team for a long time, even if they're in first place and I watch baseball. It's my counter every time that I watch baseball. I see it. Even I'm stunned it was this bad. Because I thought there was a world, if you go 1-2, I would have been very angry. I would have probably been freaking out. But then there's this. I could have seen a 1-2 and just be my standard traditional freak out. I crashed out yesterday. And now I'm so broken. Look at this tone. This is a tone of a man that doesn't have anything left in the gas tank. I blew my load on the second game. It was that ugly? You're telling me now that it's over and the result is finally here. It was so ugly that I blew my load on the second chance? I didn't even see it being this ugly. What was the first game? 13-3? You got to be out of your mind to feel any life with this team, to think that this is, quote, one bad series. I heard that over the last 24 hours, and I bet your ass I hear it again over the next 24, that just got to avoid the Mets. You're losers if you are afraid of the Mets. You're losers. Your team is a bunch of losers. If you have to run away from the Mets, you're losers. You're losers. You're absolute fucking losers. I can't do it. That can't be my mentality with a championship team. It just can't be. And when you saw them, the entire lineup, by the way, struggle through 6. He had the one double play. He was facing the minimum. I don't have faith that they figure it out. I could actually see a team needing a few innings to see the stuff. And he did a good job of mixing up pitches, and Ben Davis went over the different pitches and how often and frequently he was throwing certain things so you couldn't even sit on what you wanted. And I get that. I do. If it takes 4 or 5 innings where it's rough, but then boom, you explode, boom. I mean, they had first and third in the 8th, right? Finally, the game was over, but finally, you know what they do? They have the slowest human on planet. Get Boom off the team. He can't run. He can't run. You're having Citi Field all stand up, right? When Juan Soto's thrown it to home. Wow! Boom. You are so slow that the other team's 40,000 are rising together. And it's pushing momentum the other way. Like there's slow, there's I can't really run that well, and then there's momentum shifting slow. Changing the trajectory of the feeling of the ballpark slow. He's that slow. For as much shit as I give Trey for the speedy and sometimes irrelevant and not very valued infield singles, I take that a billion years in a row or a billion times in a row over whatever the other nonsense is with Boom. But Brodes, he had a couple of hits. Shove those hits right up your ass. I can't do it. I can't do it. So Jason Stark was on the other station, and he had an interview with the afternoon show over there, and he said something along the lines of, the Mets are tremendous with getting tells, and they have tells on the relief pitching. That's why Duran got beat up a little bit, and they put together multiple hits in a row. That's why Kerkering, that's why a lot of these arms who have great numbers go face the Mets and go to Citi Field, and then it balloons. But I have so many counters to that. One, I think you're just allowing the players off the hook. No, I don't think our offense is hitting relief pitching as well as they should. And then we're not getting what we need out of our relief pitchers. I think that's the problem. That's number one. I understand that's part of the sport, though, where you can start relaying to your guys and see certain things. But you're telling me that these pitchers, Kerkering and Durant, are so elite that excuse me, yeah, like these guys are so great against every other team, but the Mets have all these crazy, stupid answers. So the whole league can't figure these guys out at all. But then all of a sudden you face the weird and very flawed Mets team that the entire fan base up in Queens despised for 4 months, saying they don't have a chance to do anything. Now they're sweeping you, and they've had the answers with tells on all these relief pitching, and they're not even winning their division? That doesn't make sense to me. Why doesn't these other teams have tells? If you're a pitcher, major league pitching, and your tells are there and obnoxious and hitting you in the face, the Mets organization is better than the rest of the league at the Mets. The Mets. Okay. Yeah, the Mets. Come on, man. Phillies aren't doing what they need to do. The Phillies are doing what they always do. They're just starting it maybe even earlier than we anticipated, which is a nightmare. Then I got to watch Bader smiling at Francisco Lindor after a pretty ridiculous throw to second base to get him trying to stretch to 2 there. But put that tongue back in your mouth. That's a weird sentence. But still, what are we doing? I don't want to see. It's almost as bad as the rivalry pack with Bryce, although that's way worse. That is so much worse. And the fact that he was so happy and so excited to do it, he went on Scott Lauber's pod in less than 1 day. That's all that juice and hype and excitement. Because you had some fucking pop in your voice when you were explaining how cool of an idea it was in one game where you wet yourself and you no-show. I was listening to Hugh Douglas, and he said, you got to run it back, big pimpin'. He didn't say big pimpin' at all. I don't know why. I'm just turning myself into Jalix Hunt when I'm picking up the phone talking to Howie. Good thing the Eagles are coming back. I need the Eagles in my life. Because actually, bringing up the Eagles, what I wanted to do was draw a comparison to a team that figures things out mid-game. Going back to how gross the young kid was, right? And I've seen the Eagles 7, 8, 9 weeks in a row start out slow, but by the fourth quarter, they were in such a rhythm that you saw the flashes of greatness of what they can be when they actually put it together. And then eventually over time, they hit their stride and the Eagles are blowing out the Chiefs 40-6. But you could tell on a game-to-game basis that there was a learning curve throughout the first couple of quarters. They'd start out slow, the engine would start to rev, and then bang, it just perfectly aligns. I didn't think for 1 second that was ever going to happen with the philosophy and the hitting of the Phillies bats. I'm cracking up at Nick Castellanos' 0-1 pitch. This thing, dude, I don't even know how many feet it was off the plate. I can't even make a joke about a ridiculous number that it would never be, but it was that bad that I say something flat out super ridiculous. I don't even have that in the repertoire when thinking about this swing. There he goes. He actually went down looking. I went, what? He did what? I've seen it all.